use Oligo. You kind of see what happens as they kind of go through the body and the problems that traditional minerals have that Oligo has been able to overcome. So I'm just starting out with plain tap water in both of those. So the first thing we want to do is kind of create conditions of the stomach. And see what it's like in the stomach. And the stomach is a very acidic environment. And they won't let me play with acids, but they did give me some vinegar, which is nice and acidic. And I'll drop the pH of these down to about 2 or 3. So we'll create a nice acidic environment. Just put equal amounts of vinegar in both of those. We'll stir those up and then we'll add our mineral. For this demonstration, we're using copper, mostly because it has a nice blue color. So it's going to be easy to see any changes that take place. I mean, we could use iron, zinc, any other minerals. Same thing will be going on. But with copper, it's a lot easier to see what's happening because we can see color changes and things like that. So we have copper sulfate and Oligo copper. Now, copper sulfate is the same form that's used in Centrum, 1 a day. Probably 90% of the vitamins out there on the market are going to use the copper sulfate. And then, of course, in this beaker, we'll add our Oligo copper, which is available only from Melaleuca. Stir those up in our vinegar and water. Now, in the acidic environment of the stomach, it's not very hard for mineral forms to dissolve, because again, it's nice and acidic. So within a few seconds here, it's supposed to dissolve. Come on, copper sulfate. So pretty quickly, it doesn't take too much effort to. There's not all the copper sulfates dissolved, but most of it's dissolved within the acidic environment of the stomach. They're nice and dissolved. But the problem is, nutrient absorption doesn't take place in the stomach, it takes place in the intestines, which are a much more pH neutral environment. We can replicate that just by adding some baking soda to both of these. Because baking soda is going to neutralize some of that acid and bring us back up to about a pH of about 7, which is very similar to what you'd find in your intestines. So I'm going to stir up that baking soda. And pretty quickly, once I stop stirring here and let it settle, you'll start to see the first problem with traditional mineral form. And that's while the Melaleuca one is getting nice and clear again and just transparent as those air bubbles fall out. This one's starting to get pretty cloudy. That's because traditional mineral forms like the copper sulfate, when they hit the pH neutral environment, they leave the nice acidic environment, they start to recrystallize. They're going to start to fall out of solution and recrystallize, which is what makes it so difficult for the body to absorb. They'll basically turn back into little rocks, so they're not going to be able to make it through the intestinal wall. But the Oligo is going to keep it dissolved and in solution, so it makes it easily through the intestinal wall. Now, the second problem with traditional minerals is the massive amount of free radicals they generate. We can't see the free radicals with our naked eye, but if we add an antioxidant, we can kind of see what's taking place in there. So I'm going to add some vitamin C to both of these. So vitamin C, ascorbic acid. I'm just going to dissolve it in water and add equal amounts to both beakers. Okay.
And what are you adding again? Vitamin C?
This is just vitamin C, yep.
To act as the...
It's an antioxidant. It's going to let us see what's going on if there's any free radical activity. It's really going to highlight that for us. And you can start to see it's not taking very long. I haven't even started stirring it yet. We're starting to see a color change take place in the copper sulfate. Because what's happening is it's kicking off a massive amount of free radicals. And those free radicals are oxidizing that vitamin C, destroying it basically, and reducing the copper. That's going to get more and more pronounced as time goes on. So if this had been a supplement that we just taken, the free radicals from that copper sulfate are destroying the vitamin C, destroying the vitamin A, the vitamin E, and the antioxidants that we just took in the pill are going to be destroyed before they can even get into our body. But more importantly, or even more dangerously, is what we learned from our imaging studies with Dr. Bruno Fink, and that's that the free radical activity isn't limited to just the digestive tract. It's going to spread throughout the entire body. But the LIGO, on the other hand, if you contrast that, it's maintained its nice blue color. It's got the natural copper color. We're not seeing any of that yellowing or that oranging because it's keeping the vitamin C intact. It's preventing that free radical activity. So the vitamin C stays intact. It can get into our bodies and do its job. And then we don't have that free radical problem with the free radicals spreading throughout our body. That's really the difference.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Why you feel a difference when you take the Vitality Pack.